Hello there, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and page-turners they were not, but this is the podcast you're looking for.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you hear is my ventilator. Welcome to A Larger World, presented by Page Turners. They were not my Star Wars podcast. So, it's been a few weeks since this The Hunt for Ben Solo news. And as some of you might recall, everyone is yelling and screaming and running around like crazy. Running around like chickens with their heads cut off when the news came out. Now that some time has passed, I was going to address the subject, and I'm not here to moan and complain that Disney didn't greenlight it. Because I know a lot of the fans are really upset that apparently Bob Iger, president of Disney, didn't buy the idea. Even though everyone else did. Everyone at Lucasfilm and stuff. Or at least that's how the story goes. But I'm not here to moan about that. Is it disappointing? Sure. But what I wanted to talk about was, let's say for argument's sake that it eventually does get made. The question then becomes, how does that work? So to clarify for those of you who might not know, Adam Driver said that he and director Steven Soderbergh had pitched an idea to Lucasfilm that there would be a movie called The Hunt for Ben Solo. So at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo Ren turns away from the dark side and becomes Ben Solo again. He helps Rey during our final fight with Palpatine. Rey dies after defeating Palpatine, then gives his life through the Force to bring her back to life. And he dies and becomes one with the Force. The idea that they had been pitching was a movie about our heroes looking for or bringing back a resurrected Ben Solo. Apparently the pitch was rejected by Bob Iger at Disney, even though everyone at Lucasfilm liked the idea. And so there's a lot of fury over that. But now the question is, okay, how would that work? So we have seen many characters die, or quote unquote die, and then come back to life. Arguably, this may have been the greatest thing for Darth Maul. Because in Phantom Menace, he doesn't really get a lot to do. He dies, or at least we thought, and then they bring him back in the Clone Wars. I remember thinking that's a dumb idea. But then I saw it. They really did more to that character than Phantom Menace ever did. And we could go on and on about other characters that have returned in various ways. But let's consider a few points. Ben Solo died and became a Force ghost. Or at least his body disappeared and he became one with the Force. We did not see a ghost of him appear at the end of the movie. What does that mean? Well, I don't know if that means anything significant. But let's consider that Force ghosts can project themselves. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin Skywalker, they're all able to do it. Luke and Leia did too. So there's always a possibility of him returning in that sense, appearing just as a Force ghost. But based on this pitch for this movie, it at least seems to me like he would be more than a Force ghost. An actual resurrected being. So let's also consider the dyad. Okay, according to what we heard in Rise of Skywalker, a dyad is a very rare occurrence that had not occurred in a while, which is the idea of two beings who are basically linked through the Force, or arguably united as one in the Force. Now, what causes the dyad? I have no idea. Snoke had boasted that he was the reason that they were linked through the Force. I have a feeling he was taking credit for something that was not his. That's my theory. Or at least he didn't understand. Even Palpatine didn't understand until he used the Force to basically suck their energy out of them. And that's when Palpatine realized it was a dyad. Ben Solo knew it, but Palpatine didn't know it. But the question then becomes, well, what could this dyad lead to? Well, because it's nothing we've ever seen in Star Wars before, there are endless possibilities. It is possible, I think, for Ben Solo's link with Rey to extend beyond the grave. And maybe he is alive because his life energy is in her. So remember what Rey said in The Rise of Skywalker. When they ran into the Vexus snake on Pisana, the snake had a really big wound in its side. Rey used the Force to heal the creature and explained that she had read it in the ancient Jedi texts, which, by the way, didn't get burned, I should say. But she had read in those books how to give your own life energy a little bit of your own life to heal someone else. Now, Ben Solo made the ultimate sacrifice. He gave all of his life essence to heal Rey. In fact, he didn't just heal her, he brought her back to life. Logically, if you give your life energy to heal someone, in order to bring them back to life, it requires all your energy. And that's why Ben Solo died. Now, in my mind, that means that his life energy, or force energy, or whatever you want to call it, arguably exists in Rey. Obviously, because we've never seen a dyad on screen, or even in books, this is new. This is uncharted territory. And they could play around with it any way they like. There are a bunch of ways that Ben Solo could come back to life. But I do like the idea that he exists in Rey in some fashion. Now, maybe that's not the direction that they would go. Maybe they would find other ways, like the world between worlds, or other Force essences. But I think that there are enough ways that you could bring him back to life that would make perfect sense. As far as performance is concerned, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, I think is one of the best acted performances in Star Wars. My number one will always be Sir Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Adam Driver was very good in the role. And had the right amount of intensity, anger, and yet humanity to make that character work. And I would love to see him return. Now, just because Bob Iger and the people at Disney rejected the idea does not mean it's dead in the water. Things are always moving. As Yoda says, always in motion is the future. So I just don't know, but I don't think we can rule it out yet. I think it still might happen. Particularly with the fans getting very involved. This was an idea that, at least as far as I know, everybody that I know loves this idea. Or at least everybody I know in my Star Wars online community. Everybody at Lucasfilm liked the idea. Kathleen Kennedy liked the idea. You know, the only ones who didn't were the bigwigs at Disney. Now, I think that it could work, and it still might happen. I've only offered a few ideas on how he could still be alive. But it could be really, really interesting to explore this idea of the dyad, which we have never seen before in Star Wars, so it would be interesting. Mm. I don't think May and Osha count as a dyad in the Acolyte because they're the same person, just split in two. Now, as far as the Ben Solo idea, a lot of people would be really happy if this story ended up happening. Particularly, I might add, the Raylos. Now, I'm going to confess, I am a bit of a Raylo. In the sense that I do ship them as a romantic couple. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to go as far as some Raylos go. I'm not going to be writing romantic fan fiction. I'm not going to be adapting Kylo Ren and Rey Skywalker into Bridgerton. Or the Bodice Ripper Victorian romances. But I do ship them as a romantic couple, and I think that if this story ends up being told, I think that we could see that romance play out fully. Now, I know that nowadays the big sweeping romance is not as popular as it used to be. Han and Leia, Anakin and Padme. I know that for a lot of people, those kind of stories are out of fashion on the big screen, but I would be championing a return of the sweeping romance with this story. Because that's how I see them as a couple, romantic. So those are a few thoughts on this hunt for Ben Solo. Will it happen? Will it not happen? I don't know. I'm hoping that eventually it does happen. But there are plenty of ways you could explain his return. Apparently, that was why Disney rejected it. Bringing him back didn't make sense to them. But they've done it with plenty of other characters, and there's no reason it can't be done here. So those are my thoughts on the hunt for Ben Solo. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to share them. You can find me at brandmar.bluesky.social and on Instagram at Brennan Blue, BRENNENBLUE. If you have thoughts, I would love to hear them. But those are my thoughts. My name is Brendan Marr. That noise you've been hearing is my ventilator. Thank you for tuning in to A Larger World, presented by Page Turners They Were Not. My 8-season long Star Wars podcast. So far, at least. May the Force be with you.